10. Black Dolphin Prison. Located in Orenburg Oblast, Russia, near its border with Kazakhstan. It got its unofficial name from a prisoner-constructed sculpture depicting a black dolphin, which is set in front of the main entrance. The prison houses approximately 700 of Russia's worst criminals, including murderers, terrorists, cannibals, and serial killers. Prisoners at Black Dolphin are all serving sentences of life imprisonment. Inmates are kept isolated in cells that have a set of 3 steel doors. For 90 minutes a day, they exercise in a large cage. During this time, cells are searched for contraband or illegal items. Inmates are also under 24-hour surveillance and supervision. They are not permitted to rest or sit on their bunks from the time they awake until bedtime, which is roughly 16 hours. When prison officers make a command to the inmates, they must respond with the words, "Yes, sir." Every 15 minutes, a guard makes rounds to ensure Black Dolphin inmates are complying with the rules. The prisoners are fed soup 4 times a day and are only allowed books, newspapers, and a radio. Prison guards place blindfolds on arriving inmates so that they cannot map out the prison or plan escapes. The inmates are also blindfolded whenever they are transported between buildings. Black Dolphin prison officers have a unique form of escorting inmates. Prisoners are kept bent over at the waist while a guard holds their handcuffed hands behind their back, higher than the hips. This escort control tactic prevents them from escaping or attacking prison staff. 9. Kamiti Prison, Kenya. Kamiti Maximum Security Prison, located in Nairobi County, Kenya, is infamous for poor conditions and inhumane treatment, although the situation has improved slightly during Mwai Kibaki's government since 2002 and some prisoners on death row have been released. There is still no reliable water supply, with over 200 prisoners hauling buckets of water around daily. The inmates working in the industry section are paid only 10 cents per day. During the 1980s and early 1990s, many political prisoners were held at Kamiti, including Hussein Onyango Obama, Kenneth Madiba, or Raila Odinga. Many executions have been carried out in Kamiti. No death penalties have been held in Kenya since 1987, although capital punishment is not formally abolished. The prison was built for 1,400 prisoners, and it now houses over 3,600 in poor living conditions. In November 2009, at least 8 prisoners died due to cholera outbreak. 8. Tirhat, USA. The United States Penitentiary is a maximum security United States federal prison for male inmates. It is operated by the Federal Bureau of Prisons, a division of the United States Department of Justice. Most inmates sentenced to death by the U.S. federal government are housed in USP Tirhat prior to execution, with few exceptions. There are currently 44 men on federal death row. Since 1963, 16 people have been executed by the United States federal government. All 16 were executed at USP Tirhat. Timothy McVeigh, who was convicted for his responsibility for the Oklahoma City bombing, was the first prisoner executed by the U.S. federal government. The method of execution used by the federal government is lethal injection. Federal executions at this prison have been on pause since U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland announced in 2021 the Department of Justice would review its policy on capital punishment. This was after the Trump administration carried out 13 federal executions just months before the end of Trump's term, including the execution of Lisa Montgomery by lethal injection in 2021. Montgomery was the first woman put to death by the U.S. in 67 years. 7. San Quentin Prison, USA. It's a state prison for men located north of San Francisco in a place called San Quentin in Marin County. Opened in July 1852, San Quentin is the oldest prison in California. It has a gas chamber, but since 1996, executions at the prison have been carried out by lethal injection. The prison has been featured on film, radio drama, video, podcast, and television. The death row at San Quentin is divided into 3 sections. The quiet north segregation for prisoners who don't cause trouble. The East Block, crumbling, leaky maze, and the adjustment center for the worst of the worst. Most of the prison's death row inmates reside in the East Block. As of 2016, it housed 81 death row inmates and 4 non-death row inmates. The methods for execution at San Quentin have changed over time. Prior to 1893, the counties executed convicts. Between 1893 and 1937, 215 people were executed at San Quentin by hanging, after which 196 prisoners died in the gas chamber. In 1995, the use of gas for execution was ruled cruel and unusual punishment, which led to executions inside the gas chamber by lethal injection. Between 1996 and 2006, 11 people were executed at San Quentin by lethal injection. 6. Diyarbakir Prison, Turkey. Diyarbakir Prison, located in Diyarbakir, southeastern Turkey, was established in 1980 by the Ministry of Justice. The capacity of this prison is 744. However, it is sometimes overcrowded. When the Human Rights Commission in the Grand National Assembly of Turkey visited the prison in October 1996, it had a capacity of 650 and was accommodating 942 prisoners. It's mainly provided for political prisoners. The prison wards use terms usually employed for acts of diversion and cleanness, such as disco, welcome, theater, or bathroom, for the different styles of torture they practiced. Among the most common practices were severe and systematic beating, pulling of hair, being blindfolded and hosed, constant and relentless surveillance and intimidation, stress positions or forcing prisoners to stand for long durations, electric shocks, specifically electrodes attached to genitals. Mehdi Zana, the former mayor of Diyarbakir, who spent 11 years in the prison, explains. When a new prisoner arrived at the prison, Captain ESAT met him at the entrance and then turned to a guard and said, "Prepare him a bath. Then take him to the dormitory." This was a ritual. So almost 20 guards accompanied the prisoner. He received a good welcoming thrashing, and then he was dragged unconscious to his cell. 5. La Modelo, Colombia. Located in Bogotá, Colombia, with 11,000 inmates, the facility is known for its violence. The prison's north wing accommodates left-wing rebels, while the south wing has right-wing government supporters and paramilitaries. The area between these two wings is where many killings in the prison take place. Guards do not carry weapons in the prison, although the ones in the guard towers are equipped with rifles. Prisoners from both wings have easy access to guns and even grenades. Members of Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia continue to drill in their section of the prison. On the 27th of April 2000, over 100 prisoners were murdered in fighting. After the killings and the publicity it created, the government began to change the prison regime. Many of the private shops were shut down and security was stepped up, although inmates still have access to arms. In 2016, the dismembered remains of at least 100 prisoners and visitors were found in drain pipes at the jail. On the 21st of March 2020, at least 23 prisoners were killed and 83 injured during a riot which erupted amid fears over the pandemic. 4. Goldani Prison, Georgia. The prison is located in the country of Georgia. On September 2012, several videos were released showing prison guards and their superiors torturing, taunting, and sexually assaulting detainees. The video footage, which confirmed long-standing allegations of ill treatment of prisoners, was released 2 weeks before the October 1st parliamentary elections. The scandal was unique in Georgian history in that it was initially shared and discussed on social media before the story began to appear on Georgia's largely pro-government television channels. The highly controversial video footage resulted in orchestrated rallies in cities such as Tbilisi, Batumi, Poti, Kutaisi, and Gori. Upset by images of graphic prisoner abuse, protesters demanded justice and promised to continue their protests. Later that night, Katuna MacLeod fired David Chakua, the chairman of the penitentiary department. Several days later, MacLeod herself resigned. 3. Administrative Maximum Facility ADX, USA. The United States Penitentiary, commonly known as ADX Florence, is an American federal prison near Florence, Colorado. It is operated by the Federal Bureau of Prisons, a division of the United States Department of Justice. ADX Florence, which opened in 1994, is classed as a supermax or control unit prison, thus providing a higher, more controlled level of custody than a maximum security prison. ADX was commissioned when the Federal Bureau of Prisons needed a unit designed specifically for the secure housing of those prisoners most capable of extreme violence towards staff or other inmates. In 2012, 11 inmates filed a federal class action suit against the prison. The suit alleged chronic abuse and failure to properly diagnose prisoners who are seriously mentally ill. At the time of the lawsuit, at least 6 inmates had allegedly died by suicide. A 7th did so after the original lawsuit was filed, and an amended filing added him to the case. As of August 2022, there are a total of 341 inmates housed. They are confined 23 hours per day in single cells with facilities made of poured, reinforced concrete to deter self-harm and are under 24-hour supervision, carried out intensively with high staff-inmate ratios. 2. Camp 14 Kaechon, North Korea. Kaechon Internment Camp is a labor camp in North Korea for political prisoners and descendants of alleged criminals. The camp is commonly known as Camp 14. It is not to be confused with the Kaechon concentration camp, which is located 20 kilometers to the northwest. The main purpose of the Kaechon internment camp is to keep politically unreliable persons classed and redeemable by the North Korean government, isolated from society, and to exploit their labor. Those sent to the camp include officials perceived to have performed poorly in their job, people who criticize the regime, their children, anyone who was born in the camp, and anyone suspected of engaging in anti-government activities. Prisoners have to work in one of the coal mines, in agriculture, or in one of the factories that produce textiles, food, shoes, ceramics, and cement. Witnesses have reported that prisoners interred in the camp are required to work for long periods, often from 5:30 to midnight. Even 11-year-old children have to work after school and thus rarely see their parents. Other reports describe prisoners being beaten and severely punished for minor infractions. 1. Gitarama Prison, Rwanda. The most overcrowded prison in the world, Gitarama is home to more than 7,000 prisoners in a facility that was built to hold only 400. Most of the inmates are suspects of the Rwandan genocide, which saw the brutal murder of as many as 800,000 people in 1994 over a period of around 100 days. Given the extreme overcrowding, the men and women housed here are forced to stand barefoot on the filthy ground every single day, causing their feet to rot. Many eventually require amputations, but with only one full-time doctor dedicated to the prison, most prisoners are unable to receive the treatment they need, resulting in half a dozen deaths each day. Inmates have been eating the dead to survive while also suffering from appalling medical conditions. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and keep an eye out for new videos, which are uploaded on every Friday.